Right, gents, let's get stuck into it then. Dave, you had an event-free weekend, so there's nothing to discuss there. Yeah. Let's discuss instead then the Champions League draw happening on Thursday. We're going to be live streaming a draw reaction on the channel later on in the week, but let's preview it now. Ped, you've obviously got some massive vested interests in how it was performed.
Well, I need to know whether I book my holidays in May or not. Basically, that's the top and bottom of it. I need to know which cave I'll choose to be in. I've got looking at three at the moment. One's beautiful Pakistan to the north. It's beautiful area.
North Wales.
North Wales is, you can just hear them in the distance with North Wales. If the wind blows the right way, you can just hear the sound. And maybe New Zealand somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start with having Dave here. Mourinho, look, I know he's been getting covered a lot of late, and I think, look, to be fair, that's his fault. He's the reason he's being covered, and he lives for this. He draws his attention upon himself. The thing with Mourinho, and I've heard other people say this, you're getting criticised. He's got as much chance of getting booted by Christmas as he has of going on and winning the European Cup, because that's the kind of manager he is.
I think so, yeah. I think it's that interesting side that Mourinho's teams are unfashionable that won the Champions League. Porto, Inter Milan. Yeah. Like, nobody really respected them for what they did. They were defensively sound. They counter-attacked really well. I'm not seeing that from this United team yet. But I think with some tactical changes, with a bit of fluidity, maybe playing a back five, literally just sitting back and counter-attacking could work. But it's all question marks on the side, whether the maturity is there. I think we've already seen this season how you get one United that can play really well and one United that's absolutely atrocious. I think it's getting that balance and like allowing the likes of Pogba, Lukaku to become those leaders, because both of those guys did very well at the World Cup. And that's the type of tournament this is. It's 13 games. That's it.
It seems to me from the outside looking in that it's kind of been bubbling under the surface, the discontent around Mourinho. But discontent is quite easily put to one side when you start winning big pieces of silverware. And the Champions League, would that gloss over any issues?
No, I don't think so. I think the Champions League is the biggest trophy in the world. So if you win the Champions League, you win the Champions League. You know what I'm saying?
It would gloss over. So you'd be happy to give Mourinho indefinitely.
Yeah, well, we won a Champions League. Again, like the Champions League is what every team in Europe is playing for now, what the big clubs want to win. Yeah. And yes, the league's probably out there. You're thinking Liverpool, Chelsea, City. You're not going to get close there. But the Champions League, like I'm saying, like you get the right run, you could dodge some big teams and you're in the final. Or you play the big teams and you go through. And I think that's the side of it. This 3-5-2 that United played in pre-season against the likes of, Real Madrid looked quite good in terms of breaking behind these possession-based sides. The attacking fullbacks, all the top European teams do that. If you play 3-5-2 and your two strikers split, you're kind of going into a zone where you're counteracting what they do well. And that's the thing. It's just if they get it right. Well, it's not just, but Mourinho needs a lot of luck, a lot of things, a lot of, his personality needs to be there defending the players and X, Y, and Z. But there is potential, which is scary for other European teams, I think.
I think what Mourinho's got to do is that he has to make it about him and the team versus everybody else. Whereas at the moment, I feel it's like him versus everybody else. He's got to get that position where he says, right, look at this, everyone's against us, let's use this. It's us versus the world. But at the moment, I just think it's him versus the world. Let's be honest, if you're going to play a system, and the system is a negative system, you need everyone on board to that. He got Samuel Eto'o to play left wing to get Inter to win the Champions League. He played with one striker and he said to Eto'o, you're going to have to do this job for me. And Eto'o bought into it because he understood what the end result was.
Is the buy-in more difficult now, though?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe with some of the players in the squad that maybe want to leave United or don't see their future there, yeah, there's a problem there. But I think on the flip side, he is kind of creating this now. The media is completely against him right now. There's players like Luke Shaw that potentially Mourinho's criticised for certain things before. There's now coming back and saying Mourinho's a wonderful coach, giving me some great advice. If you can get that core, you're thinking Paul Pogba, Didier Deschamps got Paul Pogba, Mbappe, and the rest of those guys to sit deep and counter-attack and win the World Cup. Yeah, I think that's the big thing.
I think that's a good example of Deschamps basically getting those players to play in a system that I don't think they were ultimately comfortable with at first in the World Cup. And as the World Cup went on, it looked like from the outside, he was saying is play defensively, but then you'll have your moments in games. And that's essentially what they did, even in the final. Yeah. They were still quite defensive. For that first 20 minutes in the final, France were quite poor, but they then had their moments and those big players could shine. And I think that's what Mourinho's got to get across to these players. Pogba should be the ideal one. He's his captain now. He's just experiencing that at the World Cup. Try and drill that home to him again. Try and tell him that I want the same out of you. Yeah, it'll be negative at times, but then the big moments will come, and if you take them, you can go far.
Is it silly to write Spurs off? I always feel like I forget about Spurs. And I do this whenever I do like season predictions for the league and what have you. And I think the fact that them not going big in the transfer market or, at all, is a factor in this, because it catches your eye when things like that happen. But I've been doing this for a few seasons now, and Spurs continue to be there or thereabouts. They're a team that gets better each year that they play under Pochettino.
I think you got to look at that Juve game though, because they should have won that game last season, and that was the sort of game where you're like, Pochettino's been done by a better tactician. Allegri in that second leg especially moved some stuff around, changed a few things, and they went on to win the game. And that's something that Pochettino needs to be a little bit more pragmatic. I think that's something we're going to say a number of times here. Pragmatism is massively important. We saw with Liverpool, and them being pragmatic in certain games got them to the final. And I think that's the thing with Spurs, that they've got their way that they play that's really nice. But when it doesn't work, when, say, for example, Moussa Dembele plays well in the first leg, very poor in that second leg, how do they change that? And I think that's the question for Pochettino. If he wants to go further in the Champions League, maybe he needs to be a bit smarter with some things, or try something that's a bit different.
I have a big concern over English teams in the Champions League this season, because all the English clubs that are participating are so heavily impacted by what happened at the World Cup. We chatted very briefly about this before. So many players who featured in the final 4 teams in the World Cup, which means they all came back to training late, which means they haven't properly warmed into the season, which also means that they're having to be managed at the start of the season, but also what it tends to mean is that the legs fall off at the end, and whether that's injuries or just running out of steam. That Spurs are the hardest hit in that regard. There was something like 9 of their first 11 were involved in in either the final or the third place playoff at the World Cup. And they've not added masses of depth.
We've got a small squad as well, really, compared to the other teams, so it's going to hit them hard. And with the financial situation the way it is, the talk of the stadium costing them more, there's talk of Eriksen and his contract.
The fact that it looks like a giant toilet.
There is that.
Forever and ever.
But is that going to start affecting them? If players are not signing contracts, if they're not getting the contracts they want, the manager's already made a stance about contracts. Basically, if you don't sign them, you're out the door. I'm prepared to, I'll drop you, I'll say it. So if those players, Eriksen's looking for the same as Harry Kane, but if that money simply isn't there, is that going to start causing issues amongst their camp? And with a small squad and fatigue and all these things, it only takes those little things for the wheels to fall off.
Yeah, but equally on the flip side of that stuff like that you can galvanise in the face of adversity sometimes as well. I think they've got the complete flip. You could find Spurs as this unit. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the first few weeks of the season and how they adapt to things. I personally don't think any English club. I think the only English club that's likely got a chance of going all the way is probably Man City, just on terms of depth.
On the flip,
and in terms of
you
quality.
Can't rule Liverpool out though, no?
No, I wouldn't like to rule Liverpool out, but I think we need to make a really good fist of the league this time around. If we're in touching distance of first place with 6 weeks to go in the season, and we're there or thereabouts in the Champions League, I think we would put a slight preface towards the Premier League this time around, whereas I think Man City will do the exact opposite.
Do you think Liverpool should be considered as one of the favourites for the Champions League? Get to the final last season, bought an unbelievable keeper, bought a cracking DM and a good number 8.
Yeah, why not?
Like, surely they've got to be in and around being favourites for the tournament, seeing Mane's form.
Yeah, no, they should be.
There's no real standout candidate. The talent seems to be flitted about now a little bit more. It's been even. And also because the window here is already shut. Everyone was kicking off a couple of weeks ago. The window shouldn't be shut. Well, what's happened? Nothing's happened in Europe.
Yeah, it's screwed the rest of Europe.
It has, because it's our money that they spend. Yeah. So if we're not spending money, they haven't got.
Moreover, like the fact is, like, Real Madrid clearly wanted Eden Hazard this summer. And look, again, it might happen, but Chelsea would be mental.
Yeah, I don't see anyone going from the Premier League. I don't think the teams on the continent have adjusted time-wise for us. Real Madrid have sold Ronaldo, thinking, we'll just go and take whoever we want, and then someone's going, hang on, their window shuts now. Within a week. Yeah. What, you're not having them.
Final question, because we're going to pick up in the second show later on this week. We're going to be talking about more of the bigger European teams involved outside of the British four. Or the English four, I should say. Man City, I've just touched upon it briefly, Dave, for you, and in your, totally unblinkered view
unbiased eyes.
Is this Man City's, does it have to be Man City's number, I say have, will it be Man City's number one focus this season?
I don't think it will. If again, you're watching All or Nothing, they focus on the league, and the Champions League always second string to that. But in a way, they've spent all this money, they've got one of the best coaches in world football. If they're not getting to the semi-final, for me, that's a failure of their season. I think they need to do that. They've just destroyed the Premier League, absolutely blew it up.
Even Leeds got to the semi-final when they were spending all the money.
Leeds are on the way back, aren't they? Oh, Bielsa turned
Well, you know
things
what?
up.
I tried to do this as a topic a couple of weeks ago with Chris. He didn't want to know. I said Leeds coming back. He didn't want to know. Because Paul's different.
He's very busy. He had a bad year and a half in Leeds for another time.
I think at the same time, City, they've starting to get, like, you've seen Benjamin Mendy's impact already. Like, the thing
I'll take a throw in. Like,
yeah, how to take a throw in. He needs to work on that. But it's like how...
It's hard with the phone in your hand.
How do they deal with the problem of, for example, coming up against Liverpool and Guardiola going, right, Leroy Sané, we're going to play left wing back and we're going to play Kyle Walker as right wing back, which happened in that first leg. Arguably cost them. Their shape was awful. That's the only question I have about this Man City team is Guardiola doing some crazy thing like that. Whereas, like, this week, we're going to play a back three and we're going to have, you know, him there, playing two centre forwards. And that's the thing he's got to evolve. The thing that I've seen that's been good from City, obviously, is like playing Benjamin Mendy and Bernardo Silva as two wing backs. That's got a bit better balance.
The thing about City in the Champions League, and people were talking about how well Wolves approach the game of the weekend, is that people will be more likely to look at what Liverpool did to Man City last year in the Champions League and have the ability to mimic that better because you've got a better calibre of player. It's all well and good David Wagner going, I think I've got it.
Cracked it, lads.
Yeah, that's quite interesting because Huddersfield did that last season. Same formation, same system, caused them problems, and it was a 0-0 draw or something at home. But I really agree with that this City team, like, you look at Real Madrid that won it 3 times in a row. For me, they had no weakness. Yeah. They literally had no weakness. They could do everything. If their fullbacks go wide, their defenders can go out wide. They've got great control in midfield and they've got Ronaldo. Mm-hmm. You look at this City team, you go in, you can attack the space behind the fullbacks. Mm-hmm. You know that you pull their centre-halves wide, there's an issue there. You know that Guardiola's potentially got this crazy thing where he's going to play Leroy Sané as a left wing-back. There's questions on the team where I never had questions on this Real Madrid team.
See, I slightly disagree there. I think Real Madrid have got far more weaknesses than Man City, but
weaknesses we will discuss.
But the difference is,
I'm saying under Zidane, not now.
But the difference is, and this is for Man City, Real Madrid got the know-how how to win a Champions League.
But then, where did that know-how come from? That comes from Zinedine Zidane being pragmatic.
But I'm saying City don't have that know-how yet.
That's where I agree with that. The 4-5-1, they're never going to play that system. They're never going to sit back and counter-attack.
You say they don't have it, but they've also got the vast majority of that squad.
But you've got to have that flexibility. I think that's what Zizou showed over the last 3 seasons. You need that flexibility, and I don't think Guardiola's got that. Yeah. Guardiola ain't going to sit deep and counter-attack. He's just not, and that's going to be his problem inherently as a manager.
Okay, well, who do we think is going to go furthest of the English teams in the Champions League this season? Can you bring yourself to say it? Really?
Probably, I don't know.
Go on.
I don't know.
I want to hear you say the words.
I can't say them.
You think Liverpool are going to go furthest of the English teams?
Man City. Just because fuck you.
Okay, rank them then in likelihood of winning the Champions League. First,
Man United,
most likely.
Down there. Spurs, about here. Liverpool, about there. Man City, about there.
Okay, cool. Dave, agree?
I'm just going to put my red hat on. So Man United are going to win the Champions League, number 1. Then I'd say Liverpool, City, Spurs.
Liverpool, City, Spurs. Okay, sound. If you completely wildly disagree with anything we've said there, by all means use the comment section underneath. As mentioned earlier on, we are going to be live from 5 o'clock on Thursday on this channel with the Champions League draw. But before then, we're going to be discussing the other big contenders from around Europe for this season's Champions League. Nice one.